Puberty is a complex time for everyone, but for some kids in the Dominican city of Las Salinas, the changes are a bit more dramatic. That's because about 1% of girls in the city turn into boys. And I really mean they naturally go from having a girl's body to having a man's body. This is caused by a rare genetic condition called guevodoses, or penis at 12. But how is this possible, and what does this mean for how we think about gender? At the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, 8 female athletes failed a new DNA-based gender test. These type of tests had first been instituted in the 1960s out of fear that male athletes would pose as women to gain an edge in competition. The new test was simple enough: XX for female, XY for male. Seems right. However, the Olympic Committee soon noticed that there are other possible combinations of chromosomes. Sometimes a person can get an extra X or an extra Y without noticeable changes to their body. Other combinations, like XXY, can lead to a mixed male-female body type. Though these results weren't publicly released, these female athletes likely failed because they were XY, and yet all of them were eventually reinstated and allowed to compete as women. So how can someone be XY and be a woman? Well, it turns out it's not the chromosomes that count as much as the presence of a specific gene that decides whether someone is male or female. The SRY gene, normally found on the Y chromosome, sends a message in utero to develop as a male. But because chromosomes can exchange DNA in the formation of sperm, sometimes the SRY gene ends up on the X chromosome or goes missing from the Y. In this case, you can end up with XX males or XY females. Often, however, female athletes who fail gender tests are XY and have the SRY gene. So what happened? Well, likely their body just never got the message to develop as a male. Up until week 7 of pregnancy, male and female fetuses are exactly the same. They possess a neutral set of gonads which, if the SRY gene is present, become testes and otherwise become ovaries. Interestingly, at this point, fetuses have both sets of internal organs. Once the testes form, they'll secrete testosterone to get the male organs to develop, and an anti-female hormone to destroy the female organs. In females, the absence of these signals leads to the development of female body parts. This is sometimes portrayed as all humans starting out as female, but that's a bit overblown. It's more like all humans start out as neutral and female is the default program. What happens in many athletes who fail gender tests is that their bodies don't have the ability to detect testosterone. That means that they are XY, have the SRY gene, develop testes, make testosterone, but due to a mutation in the cell's receptors, don't have the ability to detect the signal to develop as a male. Therefore, they run the default female program. This all brings us back to guevodoses, or penis at 12 syndrome. If we look at the chain, for people with guevodoses, some connection along the male route must only get made at puberty. That step is testosterone, or more specifically, an enzyme used to convert it into its supercharged version, DHT. Because people with guevodoses have this enzyme impaired, no supercharged DHT in utero means that they run the default program, female. But at puberty, other similar enzymes take over, restoring the signal and causing the person to develop a male body. Gender is a confusing topic because we can talk about it on so many different levels, like chromosomal sex, genetic sex, and body sex, to name a few. Most of the time these line up, but sometimes they don't, and people can even lie in between. So should someone who fails a gender test be allowed to compete in a single-gender sport? Well, ultimately it's not a question solely for science. We need to think about why we segregate sports by gender in the first place, and importantly, to hear from the experience of athletes themselves who don't fit neatly into either gender. Science may not be able to tell us what we should do, but it can contribute to the conversation by telling us how the world is. And one thing is for certain, when it comes to gender, there is no easy way to fit all of human diversity into just 2 boxes.